Hey Jump Wars, it's SuperHollers and welcome to the start of a new series. This is the anime discussion series, and in this series I'll be talking about anime and what I think about them. We'll also be breaking down the anime in the process, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Before we start, I just want to let you guys know that in this series I'll be doing my absolute best to avoid spoilers so that you guys can give these anime a watch while also getting a grasp on what they're like. With that said, let's start the video. I've watched a lot of shonen anime, as I'm sure you can all tell just from looking at my profile picture, but no shonen anime has emotionally impacted me as much as Gintama has. Gintama is popular itself, but I believe that when it comes to shonen anime in general, it is underrated, and I feel its reputation should be much higher than what it's known for. Here's an example. If you talk about Gintama to a person who's never seen it, they'll probably say they've never heard of it, or they will know it and go, oh yeah, that's the popular gag anime, right? Which I can't really blame them, as there is a lot of more shonen that are simply more known. At the base of Gintama, yes, it is a gag anime, but it is just far more than that. The series has multiple arcs since it is quite long, but every arc is fundamentally different and serves different purposes. Allow me to elaborate on this, as I'll be talking about two different categories an arc can fall into. The first category is the more well-known one, which is the gag arc. Arcs like these are generally meant to make the viewer laugh, but that's just a simple way of explaining it. In these gag arcs, you'll get a lot more personality from every character, which will also make you a lot more invested in them. These arcs can also bring out a lot of emotions from the viewer, such as happiness, anger, and even sadness. The anime does well by using the characters to draw out these emotions, which makes it a lot more enjoyable to watch. On another note, the gag arcs take up a majority of the series, which isn't a bad thing since they are good and the anime is supposed to make you laugh. However, once these gag arcs serve their purpose, the series progresses into arcs which I like to call lore arcs. In these lore arcs, you'll be getting much more background knowledge on the world of Gintama. You'll learn the backstory of characters and why they fundamentally act the way they are. When you reach this point, you'll realize that the story itself is far deeper and much more interesting from when you initially started the series. These lore arcs are also served to develop the characters in the story, while keeping the show what it is at its core. As for what I think about this, a gag arc is as equally important as a lore arc, because both work together to move the story and characters forward, which ends up keeping the viewers entertained. Now let's take a step back from arcs and start talking about the characters. The main character of our story is Gintoki Sakata, a samurai with a wooden sword and the leader of odd jobs. Unlike other shonen main characters, Gintoki is just a laid-back guy who at first glance is just selfish. This, however, is just an act he puts on as he carries a lot of weight and likes to do things his own way. Although it might seem like he only cares for himself, Gintoki actually cares more about his friends, as his actions seem to speak a lot more than himself. His will to move forward is what makes him one of, if not, the best main character in shonen. Also at odd jobs are those who follow him, Shinpachi and Kagura, who are both vastly different from Gintoki himself. Shinpachi, who's someone that you can't really see being all that important, arguably has the best character progression in the show. He goes from a kid afraid to stand up to himself to someone who will fight to protect his friends. He isn't very strong compared to the rest of the cast, but his will has grown stronger since he first chose to join odd jobs. Joining odd jobs was what allowed his character to progress rather than stay in the same place, and although he might not be the best character, the role he plays is definitely important. As for Kagura, she is the female lead of the series, and I can't go into much detail about her background without spoiling, so instead I'll just explain why she's important. Kagura is a strong character who, even though has had a bad past, generally stays happy and defies what those like her should be. Kagura's role in odd jobs can vary from time to time, but overall, her relationship with every character makes the cast more interesting and led to Sadaharu joining odd jobs, which is also great. In general, odd jobs are the most important characters in the series because the anime mostly follows them, but besides them are the supporting cast, who are almost as equally important as them. The list of supporting characters are huge, but the most important ones would be the Shinsengami, Otose, Otai, and Katsura. Besides odd jobs, these characters will frequently show up in the show, and each of them are different from one another. It's also important to know the relationships these characters share with one another and odd jobs are amazing, as their personalities make their interactions funny and enjoyable. Of course, these aren't the only supporting characters in the series, as the show had a lot of them, which would make this video too long, but for now, just know that the supporting cast is a lot more diverse than the main cast. Another list of characters in the show would be the villains, also known as the antagonists, who you most likely see in lore arcs, or at the very least will be set up for during gag or lore arcs. The villain of an arc isn't just there to make the main character stronger. Every villain the show offers has a different goal, and they set these goals to meet their ideals. However, these ideals will clash with the heroes, or in this case, our main characters. In the end, it isn't really about whose ideals are stronger or which character is stronger. It's about who has the willpower to never shake off their ideal. Before we move on, I just want to let you guys know that the characters in Gintama are what personally drove me into the show, and why I'll always love it. Now that we're done talking about the arcs and characters, I'll be discussing the quality of the anime. Episodes of the show always have me in laughter and leave me wanting to see more. The art style is good, but isn't too amazing to say the least. As for animation, it's decent during the gag arcs, but can also be really good as it seems to improve a lot whenever it heads into lore arcs. The series itself is really emotional, and you can tell that the voice actors really worked hard to bring each character to life. One thing I personally like are the OSTs and the openings of the show, which sound great to listen to, as they make some scenes feel a lot better. Overall, the rating that I give this anime is a 10 out of 10, and I highly recommend checking it out. Not many anime I rate get a 10 out of 10, which is why I chose to start this series off with this one. The first episode of my anime discussion series is finally complete. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comments, and be sure to tell me what anime you think I should talk about next. With that said, I'll be seeing you guys next time.